Hello, my name is Joe Dotz, and today I want to present to you about designing, building, and operating our own water treatment plant process. This was done as part of the ECE 330 Environmental Engineering class with our client, Dr. Tritico. A little history and background. The Safe Water Drinking Act was established to provide a safe drinking water for the public, and this is strictly enforced by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. They promote these things known as primary and secondary drinking water standards. Primary standards are strictly enforced by the EPA, and these limit contaminants that are harmful to the public. And these are things like disinfectants, microorganisms, or disinfectant byproducts. Secondary standards are recommended to improve quality. These control pH levels and water hardness. We are doing this process because at the beginning of the semester we took a trip to the Alliance wastewater treatment plant, and there we looked at their process. And to start their process, they went to Deer Creek. They pumped water from there. They added chlorine dioxide to oxidize the water. They added PAC to remove any organic material, and then they added alum, which created floc. After they flocculated, they used a filter to remove it, and then they went on to adding hydrogen peroxide and using UV to kill and prevent microorganisms from reproducing. There they added fluorine or fluoride, chlorine, and sodium hydroxide. Fluorine and sodium hydroxide are used for dental health, and chlorine is strictly used as a residual here to prevent microorganisms from reestablishing themselves. So a few parameters for this project. We have to use University of Mount Union's drinking or pond water. We have to have enough for Dr. Tritico to drink for 1 full week. We had a budget of $200. We had to meet EPA primary standards for chlorine as a disinfectant, microorganisms, and turbidity. We had to meet EPA secondary standards for pH levels and water hardness. So chlorine as a disinfectant had a maximum residual disinfection level of 4 milligrams per liter. Microorganisms had a maximum contaminant level of 0. Turbidity had a 0.3 NTU maximum contaminant level. If there's too much chlorine, it causes eye and nose irritation as well as stomach discomfort. If there are too many microorganisms, it's related to adverse public health. And then turbidity is strictly related to microorganisms or density of them. So a low turbidity would be great. Secondary parameters. Water hardness had a maximum contaminant level of 150 milligrams of calcium carbonate per liter. And pH level had to be between 6.5 and 8.5. If the water hardness exceeded 150, you're looking at mineral deposits forming. And if pH level was below 6.5, then the water had a metallic, bitter taste. And if it was above 8.5, then it had a soda-like taste. So we had a few designs. The first one was using an ultraviolet light. The second one was using a makeshift distillery. And the third one was creating a process similar to the Alliance wastewater treatment plant. So for design number 1, our ultraviolet light, we found this product known as SteriPen, which was used to purify 1 glass of water at a time by killing microorganisms in the water. The only problem is it's only 1 glass at a time, and it doesn't remove any suspended particles from the water, so we struck this from our list. Design number 2 was using a makeshift distillery. We were going to use this, boil the water, capture it, condense it, and then move it into another container that we could use. And then the only problem with this is the fact that it takes a lot of energy to boil 10 full gallons for Dr. Tritico to drink. And it takes a lot of time for the water to boil to the point where we can capture it. So we struck this from our list too. Design number 3 was recreating the Alliance wastewater treatment plant. And this is the design we went with. And since we only had to meet certain EPA primary and secondary standards, we could cut out a few steps. We were going to take the water from the pond, use an initial course filter to filter out any large particles, just to make it easier for us. Then we're going to use chlorine to start killing any microorganisms. And then we wanted to add alum and PAC in appropriate doses. PAC, by recommendation of the EPA, we added 100 milligrams per liter. Alum was a 68.04 milligrams per gallon, and we found this number by a previous lab that we conducted earlier this year. And after we mixed those, we would use a 50 micrometer filter to remove any flocculant, and then we use a 0.1 micrometer filter to remove any leftover PAC. Chlorine was added at the very end as a residual to prevent microorganism growth. Purchase list from design number 3. We started out with 2 boxes of chlorine water purification tablets, 2 pounds of PAC, 50 micrometer filter, a 0.1 micrometer filter, and chlorine testing strips and petri dishes. This totals to about $148. So testing for our parameters, we obviously had to show that our water was pure enough for Dr. Trico to drink and that it met EPA standards. Water hardness had to be tested using a Hawk water hardness testing kit. Turbidity was tested using a Hawk 2100Q turbidimeter. Chlorine as a disinfectant was tested using a chlorine testing strip bottle that we found, or that we bought. Microorganisms were tested by capturing the microorganisms using an aspirator and then taking that and placing it in a petri dish for observation. And pH levels were tested using an open pH 700 pH meter. So after testing all these parameters, our results were chlorine disinfectant had a maximum residual disinfection level of 0.4 milligrams per liter. Microorganisms had a maximum contaminant level of 0. Turbidity had a maximum contaminant level of 0.25. Water hardness had 120 milligrams per liter of calcium carbonate, and pH level was 6.85. So after those tests have all been conducted, we found that the parameters were all met for the primary and secondary drinking water standards. Dr. Trico also did not get sick throughout drinking our water for the full week, and the volume of water was plenty for him to drink. And actually, if we had to conduct the test for another full week, I believe that he would have plenty more water to drink. The only problem is we would have to add more chlorine as a residual at this point. So assessing how we did, there were a few drawbacks to our design and the process. The 50 micrometer filter actually never needed to be purchased because we never added alum. Because at the very beginning of the process, that's when, before we even treated the water, that's when we tested for water hardness, and we found that it met EPA standards already. And at that point, we decided that we didn't really need to add alum in that case. So we never had any flock, so we never had to filter it out. The water transferring process was very sloppy. It was very labor intensive and time consuming to move the water from one container to the next. We used glass beakers, basically move it. And then our time management was very poor. If anything had gone wrong, we probably would not have had enough time to fix it or find another process. So how do we move on from here? I think our biggest problem is the water transferring. We need to find a better way to move water from one container to another. And looking at a marketability standpoint, if you're looking to produce and sell purified water, obviously you're going to have to take this and scale it all up, with the exception of the PAC and alum doses. And from my point of view, I think that if you were to take the steps that we had and stack them on top of each other, with the very first step, using the coarse filter at the very top, then you could use gravity as a pump to move the water from one place to another. And these are my sources. Thank you.